Hey everyone, welcome to the Wrestling Experience.
Where we are deeply concerned about Nia Jax's hole.
Yeah, sending a whole lot of love to her.
Oh boy, these whole puns.
Did you not like my pun?
I loved it.
Thank you
Well
very
done.
much. Thank you very much. I'm Jazz.
And I'm Johnny.
And yes, we are here to recap Monday Night Raw, and just bear with us. Nia Jax's whole everything, it'll all make sense when we get to that segment. It was weird, but I got quite a chuckle. But we're going to start the show, and we're going to hear from Adam Pearce and a returning Shane O'Mac. And I don't know what his role is here. I'm assuming it's because it's the road to WrestleMania, so Shane McMahon is probably going to wrestle in a match or something like that.
One could hope. One would assume he skipped last year, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
We can't assume he'll be back, right?
Yeah. So he does his dance. It's here comes the money and all that stuff. And the attention goes to the Elimination Chamber. And there is a blockbuster match that was actually announced for Drew McIntyre because he's going to be in the Elimination Chamber match defending his title against Randy Orton, because we haven't seen that before, Jeff Hardy, AJ Styles, The Miz, and Sheamus, if I'm not mistaken. And
you are not mistaken.
And Shane is basically like, wow, he's a great job, blah, blah, blah. I'm really happy for you. I'm really proud of you. You're doing a phenomenal job, blah, blah, blah. Speaking of phenomenal, yes, exactly. Speaking of phenomenal, AJ Styles makes his entrance with Omos. And there's kind of a stare down between him and Shane McMahon, right?
Yeah, and also with Omos, as if Omos forgot that he was Shane McMahon's blood for Raw Underground for like a couple weeks there. Remember Raw Underground?
Remember, I was like, oh my god, are they bringing Raw Underground back? But no, I guess
we're back. Yeah, well, AJ makes his way to the ring, right? He makes another phenomenal pun by saying the chances of Drew losing his title are phenomenal. He kind of agrees with Shane, saying Pierce has been doing a good job, but then he also calls Pierce a dumbass, so it's kind of like we're not sure what he really means. And he's hyped because this is a perfect opportunity for him to become a 3-time champ right before WrestleMania. And this is when Jeff Hardy comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a match. But before we have that match, Shane McMahon is backstage, and it looks like he's about to leave the Thunderdome. But Drew shows up, and he asks about this Elimination Chamber match because he wanted a one-on-one match with Sheamus, given what happened last week. But Shane says, if you want to prove that you're a fighting champion, this is the best time for you to defend it in the Elimination Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much how it goes. Drew is obviously going to be a fighting champion there. So now we have Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles, which, I mean, we saw it not too long ago, right? It was a little bit slow at the beginning. I feel like Jeff was really in control early on, but then hurts his knee midway through the first part of the match and exits the ring, and that's when AJ just homes in on the knee and continues to attack that he tosses him into the steel steps as well. And even in the second half of the match, after the commercial, Jeff is still like nursing that knee. It's really preventing him from doing much, but he does get to do his signature offense. He does counter a Styles Clash with a twist of fate, but when he goes for the Swanton, AJ moves out of the way because he took a while to get up to the top rope, and that's when AJ locks in the calf crusher for the win. Pretty solid match overall, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Jeff Hardy did a really good job selling his left knee injury. Obviously, that was the main point of the match, and AJ Styles was actually really relentless. And it's also really nice to see AJ Styles winning with a calf crusher.
Yeah, it's good. Once he figured out the weakness in the leg, he was nonstop. But early on, Jeff did have a good showing. We moved to a backstage segment with Matt Riddle. Oh, sorry, just Riddle. My God,
with a black eye.
With a black eye, and he's talking to Keith Lee, who we haven't seen in a while. He's still Keith Lee, right? He's not just Lee. And they're actually having a fight. They're actually wrestling tonight. And Matt Riddle used one of your lines. Sorry, Riddle again. He says he feels like $1 million because he got toasty. He watched all of the Air Bud movies, and he's feeling better. And Lee's asking if it's wise for him to still continue to pursue Bobby Lashley. And Riddle's like, well, no, I want to be the champion. So he's totally ready to do it. And then Lee implies that maybe it's time for someone else to go after the U.S. title, someone new.
Now,
I think he's referring to himself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing: Air Bud reference, really? What year is this?
Air Bud movies have been being released even as of a couple of years ago. Like, I've only seen the original one. I was a huge fan back in whatever '97 it came out. But there's been more. There's I think 5 of them in the series.
Yeah, sure, I guess. Or maybe it's like some sort of thing that stoner people like. I have no idea. But, we are going to have a match between the New Day and Retribution. It's really nice to see Kofi Kingston back. But there is a backstage segment between Sheamus and Adam Pearce, right?
Yeah, and for the same reason that Drew went up to see Shane, Sheamus went up to see Pearce because he's upset about not getting a one-on-one. And he's asking if he's not a draw. He's getting very upset because apparently this was Adam Pearce's idea, and Sheamus is upset that he's not getting the recognition that he deserves. He also says that Drew is nothing without him if it wasn't for him. And Sheamus is just going to unleash hell on everyone, and it's going to be Pearce's responsibility after what he does to everyone else in the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, so
Sheamus is angry.
Yeah, so T-Bar and Slapjack versus Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Listen, the New Day won, but it makes them look so bad. And I'm talking about
Retribution looks terrible.
Because Retribution only wins when they have some sort of like numbers advantage, or that, they're winning via cheap methods. And, you look at them winning and you're like, oh, cool, they have momentum on their side. And then this happens and then they just get deflated. I mean, it was nice to see Kofi Kingston back. Kofi, after the hot tag, he was on fire and he basically cleaned house. And again, like, I just don't understand what they're trying to do with Retribution. And it just really sucks.
Yeah, T-Bar was impressive in this match, though he did a couple of cool athletic moves. But, Kofi was able to, just get around that, tosses them both outside, does a big dive. Kofi's in, full control. And even the ending sequence doesn't really help. T-Bar is not the legal man, but he tries to distract Kofi, but Kofi just hits him with the Trouble in Paradise, takes him completely out, and then they can just have their way with Slapjack. They hit the Daybreak for the win, and Ali's just yelling and he's angry at everyone throughout the entire match while he was on commentary, even post-match. So yeah, Retribution not looking great.
Yeah, I don't know. What's next? Even
I don't know at this point. I think we should just forget about Retribution at this point.
But even the Elimination Chamber, you could have done a story where, for example, Kofi is in, but then he gets taken out by Ali, and Ali gets into the Elimination Chamber, kind of like a foreshadowing of what happened 2 years ago, because Kingston was the one that took his place in the Elimination Chamber. Again, I just thought of that on the spot. It's not hard thinking about these storylines and having them make sense. Then instead of having Mr. Money in the Bank, who basically can challenge for a title anytime he wants, gets put in the Elimination Chamber. I just don't understand.
And just wait till later where he gets completely invalidated. I also found it weird that Keith Lee wasn't in the Elimination Chamber match, and if it wasn't for the fact that they said all former champions, I would be,
I guess.
At least they saved grace there. But who was a former champion? Kofi Kingston. Who could have got kicked out and replaced last minute in the Elimination Chamber by Ali? Kofi Kingston. Yeah. That would have been an interesting storyline, but that's not what we're getting. But what we are getting now is Ric Flair and Lacey Evans coming out. And before we go to the ring and hear what they have to say, Damian Priest is backstage with Bad Bunny, and they're talking. We're not sure what they're saying because we can't really hear them. But Ric Flair is back, and he says he doesn't take orders from women, especially his daughter. So he found someone who has everything it takes to become a big star, which is Lacey Evans. And he confirms that this is just a casual relationship and that Lacey is coming for Asuka. Lacey comes in and she says her part, and she says while she does think Ric Flair is cute, she respects him and treats him like the living legend that he is, unlike her daughter. And she's asking, how is she the bad guy in this situation? But this is when Charlotte shows up. And Charlotte says, well, instead of, using my robes and my father, why don't you go to the Performance Center to do your training instead? And she talks to her father saying she sounded like she didn't want his help, but she's been protecting his legacy because he's surrounded by yes people who always tell him what he wants to hear. And she doesn't care who he manages, but she doesn't want him to bring her down. And then they have an interesting suggestion where Lacey's like, why don't we work together? She would be a better tag team partner than Asuka, after all.
But Charlotte's reply was kind of funny, though. I think at one point she called Lacey Charlotte 2.0.
Yeah, that's what she says. She calls her Charlotte 2.0, and she's like, I already have a partner. But apparently, if Lacey can beat Charlotte, she'll get a title shot. And so Charlotte's like, how about we have a match right now? And it looks like Ric Flair is saying, no, we're not ready. But this is when Lacey takes a cheap shot and accepts the match anyway. So we have a quick segment backstage with Miz and Morrison talking to Angel Garza, but then we have this actual match between Lacey and Charlotte, which, I mean, it was all right. It was Lacey working the shoulder mostly.
No. I'm sorry. I mean, you're being generous. This match was pretty bad. There were moments where like they just looked like they were completely off. There was no cohesion. I believe at one point Charlotte even walked to Lacey Evans, said something to her. Like it
punch me, she said.
Punch me, and then I don't get it. And then obviously like she slaps her, she hits her with the boot. It was just not like great. And yes, Charlotte was selling her arm, I believe, or her shoulder or something. But again, like Charlotte doesn't lose, Lacey Evans doesn't lose because obviously they don't want Lacey to lose, and they don't want to make Charlotte look bad because they would never make Charlotte look bad. They have this finish where Charlotte is just losing control. She's pummeling Lacey Evans to the point where the referee has to call for the bell. Like, it's
important to note that Ric Flair does get involved. He like gets in the way of Charlotte attempting a big dive at one point, and Lacey takes advantage, and it happens again later on in the match, and this is what causes Charlotte to go crazy and DQ herself.
But also, Lacey Evans won the match, so why is Charlotte's music playing?
Because it's better. I don't know. That's a good question. That really didn't make sense. So yeah, I was being generous. The match was pretty mediocre. Like there was nothing. Like you could tell that they have no chemistry. I don't know. It's weird.
But you know what wasn't mediocre though? What wasn't mediocre was, what we heard from Edge.
So Edge is a part-timer coming back from retirement, and he's getting this massive push. And normally that would bother me, but Edge is so good. Like he's so like his promo is so good. Like he totally deserves it. This is like the first part-timer I'm 100% on board on. And he talks about his massive decision that he has to make, and that's why he went to visit all the champions and see them face to face. But now he hears about this Elimination Chamber title match that Drew has to defend his title in, and he doesn't like Drew's odds. And so it doesn't make sense for him to make a decision on who to face at WrestleMania when there could be a different champion, right? So this is when Miz shows up, and he talks about Edge's great speech, and Miz knows that Edge is waiting for the perfect opportunity, but Miz also kind of suggests that no matter what happens, even if Edge does win, he'll be ready to cash in right away. And this is where Edge just completely destroys him, because Edge talks about how he knows a thing or two about the Money in the Bank, and he's wondering why Miz would even tell him what he's going to do. And Edge also makes a clever line saying he's not content with just being awesome like the Miz is, because he was awesome. He was doing the whole awesome thing 20 years ago. He says Miz needs to worry about Priest, Elimination Chamber, and Bad Bunny, and that Edge is playing a different game completely, like he's playing high-stakes poker while Miz is just, I don't remember what he said exactly, and then Edge kind of just walks out. But yeah, like, I mean, it makes sense. Miz just comes in every week to talk about how he's going to do something, cash in, and it just never works out.
Yeah, honestly, he just completely dismantled the Miz. I think Miz even had cry face or something like that. He looked like he wanted to burst and cry. But what a weird pairing. Like, they're not doing anything with Angel Garza, so we're like, hey, let's just put them with the Miz and John Morrison, and
so we could lose to Priest, basically. I guess Angel Garza is the new Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin, gatekeeper of NXT call-ups.
I mean, the match was still fine. Like, I mean, it was an easy win, yes, from Damian Priest. The whole partnership with Bad Bunny in the WWE, it seems to be working really well because Bad Bunny is extremely popular, and apparently, like, his shirts have all sold out, and
apparently he's the most streamed artist on Spotify. I'm shocked because I didn't even know who he was until the Royal Rumble. He was wearing some fancy pajamas and he got pyro. I'm like, this guy's a big deal.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that the long term thing is probably going to be Priest and Bad Bunny versus Miz and Morrison. It just makes sense considering that Bunny is a huge draw. But hey, it makes Priest look good, right? And again,
I'm happy because I'm a huge fan of Priest. So there's not much to say about this match. Priest is in control. Miz distracts Priest. Garza's in control. He throws his pants at Bunny, and he has a bit of offense until Priest takes over. There's more distractions, so Bunny steals the briefcase, and then the ref sees everything going on, and he kicks out Miz and Morrison, and then Priest just hits the Reckoning immediately for the win. It was pretty short sequence. Nothing special, but Like I really think Priest should get a great push after WrestleMania. Like he's very great. He's very good.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna move on to Drew McIntyre, who's being interviewed backstage by Charlie Caruso. He talks about that it's WrestleMania season, so basically you expect the unexpected. I really liked the intensity from Drew McIntyre. I thought it was pretty. It was pretty straightforward, and it was a really, really good promo. He talks about how his focus is on Randy Orton because yes, there's going to be a match against Randy Orton later on. And he talks about Edge and the fact that Edge hasn't chosen his WrestleMania opponent, and then he kind of lists off the opponents that he has at the Elimination Chamber. And even if it seems that he's backed into a corner, he's ready to basically tear everybody's damn face off.
Yeah, great promo by Drew. Looks really strong. Looks like he's going to successfully defend the title at Elimination Chamber. Totally on board.
So.
Yeah, Riddle comes out. And then before Keith Lee could come out, it was kind of weird. Like they had one entrance, then they had a backstage interview, and then Lee came out. The backstage interview was with Bianca. Charlie was interviewing Bianca, and she's asking how she feels about the Asuka versus Lacey Evans match because that was announced. Apparently, Lacey winning by DQ was all she needed to do. It counts as a win.
Pretty much.
Even though her music didn't even play, she gets the title opportunity. And Bianca's doing her thing where she's like, well, I have to be the smartest, so she won't play all of her cards right away and reveal who she's going to face. But she does give props to Sasha and Asuka again, and Asuka shows up to congratulate her as well. And she implies that just because she won the Royal Rumble doesn't mean that she's ready for Asuka. Bianca doesn't seem to like that, and she says, yeah, she is ready for Asuka, but you know who isn't? Lacey Evans. And then they kind of like do a little bit of they're kind of like all hyping each other up, and then Bianca says if she wins her match, if Asuka defends against Lacey, maybe she'll see more of Bianca on Raw.
Asuka didn't like that.
Not at all. So now Lee comes out to have his match with Matt Riddle, and MVP's on commentary, and this is one of the better matches of the night.
Hey, actually, I'm surprised that Riddle actually got some offense in.
Come on, it was so nice. Like, I mean, Riddle kept going for that armbar, and Lee kept trying to lift him up and smash him. It was solid, and like so far, like none of the matches we spoke about for this episode have been particularly amazing. Like,
I don't know for sure. Look, I'm saying the match was very good, and it was actually nice to see Riddle get some offense in, considering that he's been dismantled by Bobby Lashley for so long.
Yeah, last week in particular for Riddle wasn't very good, but I mean, I didn't expect a squash match. I'm sure they were going to have a competitive match. And it was mostly Riddle using his speed and to try to dodge Lee's heavy strikes, and Lee trying to be the powerhouse here. Lee goes for a German suplex, and Riddle lands on his feet, which is nice. Riddle tries to hit an exploder, but that's not a good idea. Lee goes for a spirit bomb that Riddle counters. Riddle has some amazing offense with a floating bro. Of course, he's got the armbar again, and Lee's trying to lift him up by the arm, which he did successfully in the beginning of the match. He was able to like curl Riddle, but this time Lee is crumbling and he's not able to get it going quite as well as he did at the beginning of the match. Riddle charges with a few knee strikes, but when it looks like he's going to have the advantage this time, on the second attempt to use the knee strike, Lee catches him and hits him with a spirit bomb for the win. And then they kind of shake hands in a sign of respect after the match, and that's when Lashley attacks. And Lashley beats everybody up. Like he slams Lee, he puts the hurt lock on Riddle, and then he goes back on the outside to keep working on Lee, and he hits him with the steel steps to finish that off.
Dude, seeing a dominant Lashley is just beautiful.
I know. I'm one of those guys who wanted to see Lashley versus Lesnar at one point. So this is awesome, and we are getting a triple threat match for the U.S. title at Elimination Chamber, right? So that's going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Moving on, we have a quick update from Randy Orton backstage, who has unfinished business with Drew, and he talks about how he's going to win the title at Elimination Chamber, and that the title means more to him than anything. Nothing crazy from Orton here. Not just reminding us that he's in the chamber. He has a match with Drew. He's going to win tonight, and he's going to win the title at the Elimination Chamber.
So I have a question for you, really quickly. What are the odds of Randy Orton almost winning the Elimination Chamber, and then the Fiend causes a distraction, and that's how Drew McIntyre retains?
It's pretty likely. There's also the consideration that Randy Orton wins and Edge chooses to face him because it all comes full circle, which I don't want to see. I'm happy and satisfied with how they ended things at the Royal Rumble, Edge getting his win and then getting the win again the following night. But it's something that could happen.
Yeah, so now this is the moment that you've all been waiting for. We have
Yes,
a
this is it.
tables match between Nia Jax and Lana.
This is I don't even like it was actually a totally fine match, right? Like Lana starts off strong, but like it's not really good enough. Nia hits like several power bombs, and you could see Naomi is concerned, and Nia is like trash talking Naomi. Nia even puts Lana in submission that really like hyperextends the knee. So Lana is like completely out of it. She tries to fight back with some kicks, and she's able to counter a third power bomb. And then they end up on the apron where Nia's on the apron and Lana's in the ring, and there's like a table there, and Lana's trying to kick her and like even pull her hands off the rope so she can fall onto the table, but it doesn't quite work. And then Nia takes control, knocks her down, and is gonna go for a big leg drop on the apron, but Lana gets out of the way, and this is where we hear the famous line, "My hole." Apparently, Nia's hole is she's suffering, and she's in a lot of pain. And as she's walking, this is where Lana gets her second win, and she like charges Nia and pushes her, and she goes straight into a table that's like kind of like hanging on the barricade, and that's how Lana picks up the win. We have Lana winning a tables match against Nia. It was truly beautiful.
Exactly, but it wasn't over because post-match, Shayna Baszler tried to basically get the upper hand. She tried to attack Lana from behind, but Naomi was there to hit her back with a springboard kick. And now we have an impromptu match between Naomi and Shayna Baszler.
This was shorter than the commercial that just came before it, to be honest.
And again, like it's God, I feel bad for Shayna Baszler because her losing to roll-ups just doesn't make sense.
But it happens all the time. That's like literally the only that's her kryptonite. She can't beat roll-ups.
Yeah.
Because she has the clutch locked in, and Naomi rolls to the ropes. And while she's like recovering, Shayna decides to go attack Lana and beat her up. And then when she comes back into the ring to go back to Naomi, she gets rolled up and she loses. So she probably should have just left Lana alone there. Probably would have, helped her win the match there.
Yeah. Oh well, it is what it is.
Yeah. So now we have the main event: Orton versus Drew. Orton's not trying to avoid the fight early on in the match. Drew almost gets him with his signature draping DDT. So good thing Randy Orton didn't get hit by his own signature move there. And we also hear Sheamus' music early, and this is a distraction for Drew. And that lets Orton take advantage, and I think he sends him into the ring post.
Yeah.
And then coming back from the commercial, Orton's in control. He does his backdrop onto the table. Drew is fighting back, of course. He has a big slam. He tosses Orton around, and he does a nice neck breaker with a kip up. So he's all in control at this point. Orton doesn't let him hit a future shock, but then he does hit the spine buster. And Drew goes on the top rope, which never ends well for him, right? Orton comes to meet him, and he stops him and hits him with a superplex. Drew is in a lot of pain, but is trying to fight back with a headbutt. But Orton is able to dodge and then lock him in for the draping DDT. And now Orton is ready to strike with the RKO. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't quite work. Drew counters it with a DDT, and it looks like Drew is going to go for the Claymore. But in a weird, I don't like, Sheamus gets involved here, and he's kind of like behind Drew, and he's going to go for a brogue kick, but it's like as if Drew kind of had a sixth sense and noticed he was behind him, and then like Randy Orton kind of pushed him out of the way too, so that Randy Orton can receive the brogue kick. And then Drew was right back ready to hit a Claymore for Sheamus, and then that's kind of how the match just ends. Like I guess Orton wins by DQ.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, officially Randy Orton won by DQ, so really surprised that we didn't get to see Alexa Bliss. There was just no signs of her after what happened last week.
It's like she only shows up every other week,
Yeah, I don't know. But again, I mean, at the end, I guess Drew got payback on Sheamus, after what Sheamus did to him with the brogue kick last week. I guess it was the simplest way of ending the show. And yeah, that was pretty much the recap for Monday Night Raw, which I thought was a decent episode.
I mean, it was a little tough to get through the first hour or so of matches. Really, it only started getting good when there was Lee versus Riddle, and Lana versus Nia wasn't spectacular, but it had the most iconic moment in the history of 2021 in WWE. I don't think we're gonna top that. Yeah, pretty solid episode overall. Besides a little boring at the beginning. Yeah, but that's what you get. 3 hours.
I was gonna ask you though, so when you say the most iconic moment, are you talking about my hole or Lana winning?
Honestly, both. Like, it was a beautifully wrapped package with two iconic moments.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it was.
I don't know what I liked more.
It was an unexpectedly funny moment from Nia Jax, so that was great, and it was really nice to see Bianca Belair on Monday Night Raw as well. As much as I want to see Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, because I think that would just they would like basically tear the roof off WrestleMania. I'm also curious to see Bianca Belair versus Asuka. I think both women are one of the top female wrestlers, and they can also put on a clinic as well. So I'm definitely hoping for Sasha versus Bianca Belair at the end.
I mean, I agree with you. I think both matches would be good, but I think I am leaning towards Sasha. I think it's just it's a better match, and it feels like Asuka is going to have a different storyline anyway with Charlotte, because I mean, when there's a Charlotte on the card, she's got to have a big spot in WrestleMania. We just don't know where.
Absolutely. Maybe she can face Drew McIntyre and win that title. But hey,
I'm surprised she's not in the Elimination Chamber.
All right, well, that was our recap for Monday Night Raw. If you guys do enjoy our content, please make sure to like our videos. And if you do listen to us in audio format, please make sure to leave a rating, subscribe on YouTube. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you in the next video.
Do you think Lana knew? Do you think Nia knew what she was doing? Like, do you think she was like, "I'm gonna say this and become like a meme overnight and become super popular"?
I mean, she was pretty hated, and now people are loving her. So I guess it worked, right?
Mission accomplished. We're all fans of Nia Jax now.
Exactly. It's not now. Just to end it off, though, I have a serious question for you. What was Shane McMahon doing there? What's his end goal?
To start a feud with someone who loses the Elimination Chamber. I don't know. Maybe if they're not doing Edge versus Orton, maybe it's Orton versus Shane in some weird. But that doesn't make sense because it's going to be Orton versus Bray anyway.
Firefly version of Shane McMahon.
I don't know. It's weird. Maybe he was just there for fun, but he's not going to show up again. But yeah, that is definitely something to talk about.
I can't wait for Kevin Owens to say something bad about him on Friday night.
No, they buried the hatchet, right? Maybe not.